I'd like to open the meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Tom from Iowa, go ahead.
This is a story about how I found Plainfield. I don't recall how I first heard of Christian Science, but as I decided to look it up on the internet. I was first led to the Boston website, and then I saw that Science and Health, the Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy was on the website. I read the book in hours. I know that its message and teachings were what I've been searching for so long, and I felt healing taking place. I soon saw that the textbook content didn't match with what was on the Boston website. Somewhere along the way, I found an address for a compendium in England, and so I sent for it. When it came in the mail, I read through it and found a listing for Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. I then looked that up on the internet and found a link to the website. It wasn't too long after that I applied for membership. I know God or divine mind operates through this church, and healing works flow from Plainfield. As time went on, I received more help from this church through its services and practitioner support. I am grateful to God and to the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim from Arizona, go ahead.
Good evening. I just received my 2 copies of Love is a Liberator and have already completed the first reading of this gem. It is filled with wonderful articles. The general theme is Heal the Sick. We learned of the term Lent and what it means to some. We learned that we should watch our thoughts and make sure that we always use our healing science and not forget it after our healing is completed. How does a girl cope with moving from a native country, Germany, that is Deutschland, to Kansas? Yes, Christian Science does heal loneliness, whether it be for people, items, or country. Time permits but a few examples of the importance of this wonderful copy of the Liberator. Most definitely, my first reading of this copy will not be the last. My second copy of the Love is a Liberator is going to go to a minister that occasionally visits with me. I am most grateful for the many hands that made this edition possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for those beautiful readings tonight. I want to express my gratitude for protection when the car I was driving had a flat tire while I was on the freeway. The car was easily and quickly pulled over. I contacted a Plainfield practitioner to let her know of the situation, and at one point there was one obstacle after another that was making it difficult to get the problem solved. At this point, I gave the practitioner this update. Within 5 minutes, a tow truck appeared and was able to assist. Not only that, but it was followed by some road workers who showed up and parked their truck behind us with flashing lights for extra protection. These individuals, I found out later, are contracted by the Turnpike to help stranded motorists. But the timing was truly all God. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing and beautiful. The car was towed to a close tire shop, was just about to close, but they were able to put a new tire on in minutes, and I was on my way. I am very grateful for all the dear men who helped along the way, for their kindness, respect, helpful, and extra effort that they put in. I am grateful for the protection and care from God during this whole time and the prayers of the Plainfield practitioner. I am grateful also for the many examples of those who have shared their on-the-road experiences at these meetings, which have taught me how to pray before and during traveling. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Oh, good evening. And thank you for this beautiful service and the readings and the music. Not long ago, I was in a situation where human reaction took over before prayer, and I called a practitioner right away for prayerful help. These are two of the things I have been working with concerning consciousness after being told to read the definition of intelligence by Martha Wilcox. And one of that goes on like this. Martha Wilcox tells her in addresses on page 157 that, quote, Mrs. Eddy once said to a group of us that we should never permit ourselves to react with intensity to every unpleasant thing. She meant that we should so discipline our individual thought with truth of being until we could stand in the presence of seeming error, mentally unmoved and steadfast in our faith in divine intelligence. Also, Mrs. Eddy said, in Fear is Not Your Thinking, quote, you pray to learn, then why be regretful when the page turns over and a hard lesson comes next? Let resentment go and just roll up your sleeves, so to speak, and get to work and declare that you are going to squeeze all the benefit out of the experience that you can. Just learn to be glad of these chances to impersonalize error. Oh, I am so grateful for this new learning. And instead of running away from a problem, I am gaining the confidence to stand before error and see the truth about God's dominion in my life and claim it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fairly from Maryland. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you very much for the lovely readings on love and forgiveness. I am very grateful for the continuous teaching that is offered to all who come here to learn and continue to advance in the understanding and practice of Christian Science, to fulfill their own lives as well as help others. Recent examples include a recent sessions on matter versus spirit, and also a session on that illuminated the book of Revelation in the Bible. I am grateful at this point for a clearer understanding I have gained of the true spiritual nature of our life and all that we experience around us. Being able to persist in holding to my spiritual truths to heal problems, physical and mental, and to never give up, knowing we are God's idea and all the good He has for His own. I'm very grateful to God, to Jesus, to Mrs. Eddy, and my practitioner here at Plainfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
Last Wednesday, I woke in the morning and felt as though I hadn't slept at all. After just a few minutes, when the feeling didn't go away, I realized that it was Wednesday, and this feeling was simply impersonal resistance to the service. That realization didn't lessen the feeling, but it gave me the assurance that it would fade after the meeting that night. After a while, as I went about my work, I started to feel like I had an eyelash underneath my eyelid. I tried to wash it out, but the feeling remained, and then I realized that too was a sign of resistance. And so I knew that would be gone after the service as well. It was a long day, but I kept knowing that there could be no impediment to this God-directed work. Finally, the testimony meeting came, and right about halfway through the last hymn, I felt wide awake and my eye was no longer bothering me. I had such gratitude to God for this healing science. Before coming to Plainfield, I had many trying days. Back then, those times seemed endless and without any hope of reprieve. Now, if I am tried in the course of this work, I know that any suffering will end and be replaced by that wonderful feeling of joy and gratitude that only His work can bring. As Mrs. Eddy wrote in Science and Health, trials are proofs of God's care. I'm so grateful for the practical nature of Christian Science. All areas of my life have had healings during these past years in Plainfield, and I have no doubt at all that it is because of the teachings of Christ Jesus, Mary Baker Eddy, everything this church offers, and daily practitioner support. Thank you.
Thank you. Dede from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Through my study of Christian Science, I've learned and am still learning what it means to truly love. I'm learning to love God first with a better understanding of His love for me and everyone. And this is helping me to love more and is making it easier to love unconditionally. I'm finding that sending out love constantly in all that I think and do is a great protection, which shields me from any negativity that tries to come my way through any means. With this practice, I'm freed from the pain of taking offense, the burden of maintaining resentment or hate for any length of time, and the fear of what evil can do to me. This is a tremendous joy, and I'm grateful to have learned that God is the only power and that God is love. I'm thankful to know now that love is the liberator. Thank you so much for tonight's readings, for the hymns, and for all the testimonies so far. I'm very grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you. Jeff.
We're taught in Christian Science to change our thinking, and a way that is working for me is through the use of repetition. I tell myself, and do so frequently, certain declarations or affirmations I know to be true that I found in our church website, plainfieldcs.com. One of the articles by Peter V. Ross says, and I quote, "You are always talking to yourself, and much of the time, if not careful, you are saying what is not true. How old you are getting, how useless you are, how discouraged you feel, and how much you suffer. Every time you think or declare one of these untruths, you add to the mesmerism which is already weighing you down. You would not make another person have any of these distresses, and surely God would not. Stop telling yourself these lies. Refuse to think or argue this way, because every time you do so, you take into mentality that which will work against your welfare. The Creator has not made this dream world of weariness, sickness, depression, and you are not deceived by it. Your vision is so clear that you can look right through it and see beyond to a world of health and dominion." And here's the other part of the Peter V. Ross article that I use as a kind of mantra in times of pain or trouble. And again, this is on our church website, plainfieldcs.com. "God is life, and life is everywhere, and you are life expressed. Tell yourself, and do so frequently, that you are the temple of the living God, the place of health, strength, freedom, buoyancy, and confidence. Say to yourself, I am the temple of the living God. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let this world of pain and trouble be still. I am eternal life on exhibition. I am the place where all-knowing mind is diffusing courage, wisdom, resourcefulness, keenness of vision, and soundness of judgment. I have no capacity for failure or sickness."
Thank you. This is Bruce. Just wanted to add my thanks for the wonderful things that I've had the privilege to learn here in the Plainfield Church. I remember some time ago, there was a statement made by Mary Baker Eddy, which we were sharing, and it goes like this: "Everything that comes to me today brings me a blessing." And at first I thought, oh, what a nice statement. And I realized that it was much more than that. She was actually laying down the law. Everything that does come brings a blessing, and we're going to see it and have it, and no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The other day I had an opportunity to go visit someone, and I was telling someone else who knew the same person, yeah, I'm going to go visit this person. And this person says, you know, that lady is so nasty and bad and whatever. And at first it took me off. The guy walked away, and I realized I'm not subject to anybody else's opinion, and I'm not responsible for the way anybody else acts, but I am responsible for keeping my mind clear with the truth. And I remembered this statement: everything that comes to me today brings a blessing. That's by Mary Baker Eddy. And I kept thinking, well, if I go to visit that lady, by God's grace, I will bring a blessing. And if this visit with this lady comes into my experience, by God's grace, there will be a blessing. I just left it at that, left it in God's hands. And I went there and was very thankful for an opportunity. And we had such a good time there. That lady could not have been more gracious. And we took care of our business quickly and easily, and everybody was grateful for everybody else's input and contribution. And besides that, there were also a few young children that were running around the house, and they were very happy, and that added to everybody else's joy. So it ended up being quite a lovely blessing. So I'm thankful for God, for His truth, for His humble servant, Mary Baker Eddy, who gave us so much that is all good and true. And of course, for everything I'm learning here in church. It's quite wonderful. Thank you. Lil.
I'm so grateful to have learned about our good God and about sharing our good with everyone. I don't remember praying at all when I was growing up, but here I've learned to include everyone in prayers, such as getting into my car, know that God is behind my wheel and every wheel, and learning and leaving home to pray for my home and every home. When the weather is not good, work to know that God is controlling the weather everywhere, every moment. There's nothing that God can't do or heal. I'm so grateful for Mrs. Eddy for establishing this wonderful way of life and sharing it with the world, and for practitioner help, and that God brought me here to this blessed church. And thank you for those wonderful readings.
Thank you. Craig.
Thank you for those wonderful readings. And it is so important to keep that forefront in my thinking, to love more, and to, no matter what, to get back to loving. I can see it in my life. Mary Baker Eddy's teachings have really made a difference. God is always with us, and we have every reason to feel strong and able to love, because it's Him working as us. I remember the first speech I ever had to give in school. I wish I had known that. I just stood there for about 3 minutes and shook. But it doesn't happen anymore. I know that pray first and then let God lead you in the rest of the way. Mrs. Eddy says in hymn 208, love more for every hate or fear, for God is good and loss is gain. And I hear that she recited that late at night as a prayer for the whole world. And it was so dear to her, and I see why. And if we keep on loving, it clears our head to be able to, whatever the situation, so that we can get back to what we do all that we should be doing. At work, I find times that things seem to be upsetting, but I'm learning more and more not to take it as an attack on me or a failure of mine, but just as a situation. And if I pray, I'll know what to do and get back to loving and dealing with the situation. And once I'm calm and things work out properly. Many times it's always the time that we are successful and good, and everything will turn into a blessing. Just some sort of steps need to be taken to progress the situation to that point. I thank Mary Baker Rady for changing my way of thinking so that I can calm down, quiet my thoughts, and let God guide me through the situations. Thank you.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm so grateful for this parable about the creditor and the two debtors. I am, because when I first read this parable, I saw how cruel the forgiven man was and how insensitive he was in handling the person that owed him. And then thinking more about it, I remembered how many times I have done things and asked God to forgive me, and yet there was a time when I could not forgive. If someone wronged me, I just couldn't bring myself to forgive them. I would hold resentment in my heart and find ways or think of ways that I could revenge. The realization that I was no different from this man who had been forgiven really humbled me. And I'm so grateful that through Christian Science, the teaching of the understanding of love, of forgiveness, has really helped me greatly to learn how to forgive and how to love. If anyone is resenting someone or having a difficult time forgiving, let them remember how many times they have been forgiven, and perhaps find at least one thing in whoever has wronged them, and to start loving that. And that always helps in changing the feeling. And you can free yourself from any resentful thoughts, which is truly indeed a sense of freedom. I'm so grateful for all the testimonies so far, the music that was played, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mary.
Tonight I have a couple of letters and a few things from our church website bulletin board. The first from Oregon. The Round Table supplies a fountain of really good information, and I learn lots of new things every week. I'm so glad to be able to listen and learn. Thank you. Thanks to all. And then Vermont, Dear Plainfield Church. Enclosed is our love offering and appreciation for all the fine work being done to further Mary Baker Eddy's pure Christian Science. Thank you all. And then from the website, Maryland. Much gratitude for this very important roundtable discussion on the difference between matter and spiritual substance. Though I attended the session, I found it helpful to listen to it again on the recording. In Pennsylvania, I wish to thank Laura, Bruce, and Jared for their performance of the hymn, How Great Thou Art. I felt great joy as they were singing and playing the flute and keyboard. What a beautiful addition of joy and gratitude to God during the service. Georgia, a few hours after last Saturday's Bible lesson on contentment, I received a call from Canada expressing gratitude for what was discussed. This is essentially what she said. I am calling from Canada just to say that I was listening to your church Bible lesson this morning, and I was really deeply touched, and I'm grateful to have found your church, which was referred to me by a friend. I just had to call and let you know that, and thank you very much. The references to the women in the Bible and also to the women in the movie Hidden Figures about remaining godly in spite of everything, and of course to Mrs. Eddy, who never gave up. I know now that I have nothing to complain about, but just to trust God and seek His righteousness. Thank you. And then Pennsylvania, I wish to say thank you to Elizabeth for the beautiful as well as powerful readings given last Wednesday, March 22nd. Go forth, trust our God, and Christ Jesus said, be not afraid. And then finally Virginia, thank you so much for the Bible study 325 and the round table 326, which discussed Revelation, Mrs. Eddy's place, and the new heaven and the new earth, also valuable. And thanks very much for including on the bulletin board reminiscence of Richard Conwell Shoup. How wonderful to have this important history to inspire our work for the world. Thank you. I'm very grateful tonight for those readings on love and forgiveness. I was thinking how there have been many articles written about how to find happiness. What is it that makes a person happy? And one that I found a few years ago that left such an impression on me was after a great study on happiness and who's happy. The one common factor that was determined in truly happy people was their ability to forgive. Not to hold a grudge, but to just let it go. And when you think about it, how can you be happy and at the same time have an unforgiving heart? So I just thought that was such a wonderful reminder that to be truly happy, we have to be forgiving. It's in the Lord's Prayer, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And love is reflected in love. I was also thinking that sometimes people wonder why their prayers aren't effective, why some people's prayer seems to work and why theirs don't. Well, there can be many reasons for that, and the Bible gives us many reasons, as well as Mrs. Eddy's beautiful chapter on prayer and science and health. But one, in Isaiah 59, it says, behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened, that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy, that it cannot hear. But your iniquities have separated you and your God, and your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear. So it isn't that God isn't wanting and willing to heal us, but when we're harboring iniquities, sin, and one of them would be the sin of unforgiveness, it puts up a barrier, a block. So our prayers aren't effective. We have to come to the throne of God with a clear conscience, a clean slate, so to speak. In the Bible, in Matthew, Jesus said, you don't come to the altar if you're angry with your brother. You right things first, and then you come to the altar of God. And so, with our prayers, we make sure that our heart is pure, that we're not holding any resentment, any grudges, any unforgiveness, any hate, but that we are at peace with God and with our fellow man. And that way we are able to receive the great blessing that prayer brings to all God's children. I'm grateful for all the wonderful things I learned at this church. Certainly grateful for this service, the beautiful music, that beautiful prelude and hymns, and those beautiful readings tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you.